Hey guys, today I wanted to talk a little bit about the revision process because you'll be doing peer review next week, and I want to make sure that you are helping each other make your papers as good as possible. So, what is revision? If you read the chapter in the textbook, you know that it has to do with actually seeing your paper from a different perspective. Um, Revision is kind of a big picture look at your paper and has to do with the actual writing that you've done. When you revise or review your writing, you make changes to entire paragraphs. You might switch the order of paragraphs or change out some sentences. But you're thinking about the overall communication of the paper itself, which is slightly different from proofreading, which has to do with how you actually said what you said, right? When you proofread, you're changing words or maybe sentences to make sure that your paper is as clear as possible. They go together, but they are a little bit different. When you do peer review, I want you to focus more on revision and not as much on proofreading. If you notice a lot of grammar mistakes, maybe let your partner know, but don't spend time correcting every misplaced comma. Tell them big picture, does their paper make sense? All right, and revision isn't easy. Um, Most people, they write their paper and then they never want to look at it again. And I understand that, but you'll never level up as a writer if you don't rethink your own writing. Okay. So when you're revising your own essay, I always suggest reading it out loud. If you have a roommate or a brother or sister, or maybe a friend that you can read it out loud to, that's great. But even if you don't, just read it out loud to yourself. Because a lot of times, if you read it in your head, you make assumptions and miss things that you would hear when you read it out loud. All right. And kind of related to that is the importance of asking for help, right? Writing is not an isolated event. It's better when you involve other people in your writing process. And so the Writing Center is a great resource on campus, and they actually have online help that you can get. But then I'm also a resource. I love helping students with their paper. Nobody ever comes to office hours, but you're always welcome to. And if my office hours are not at a convenient time, let me know and we'll make an appointment and we can talk about your paper and I can help you review what you've written. Okay, and then kind of this little bonus tip has more to do with proofreading or editing. I suggest using a program like Grammarly. I use it on all my papers. You can see I actually have the plugin on my web browser. And what that does is it will mark any grammatical errors that you have and then actually suggest how to fix them. It's wonderful. Use it. Okay, so that's looking at your own paper, but what about when you're giving feedback on somebody else's paper during peer review? All right, the idea is that you want to give your partner a new perspective on their writing, and the best way to help somebody see from a different perspective is to ask lots of questions, right? So instead of saying you should add more detail here, ask, could you tell me more about how you felt during this situation? Something like that. All right. And as always, be specific. All right. Don't just use general ideas of, oh, well, I liked this story. Tell them exactly what you liked about the story so that they can then use that feedback to improve the rest of their paper. And then, of course, in the future, when they write papers, they'll be able to keep that in mind. Okay. The most important thing to remember when it comes to peer review is that you want to find a balance between being nice and being honest. Usually, when students do peer review, they tend to be too nice and they're afraid to tell their partner where they could improve. But you're not actually helping them if you're only pointing out the good things. Their paper will only get better if you tell them where it could get better. So make sure that you're giving honest, constructive criticism, but that you're also doing it in a kind and helpful way and that you're not just ripping it to shreds.